First up, though, let's talk about those protests we've been seeing in France over recent days. Been going on an awful lot in recent years. The Gilets jaunes and many others over lockdown as well. But the latest protests are about a move by the French President Emmanuel Macron to enact actually something, to be fair, that was in his manifesto on both occasions when he was elected, to raise the retirement age, raise the pension age from, wait for it, 62 to 64. Ours is going up rather higher than that. The French right to basically have 3-hour lunches every day and then retire for some 30 years on the payroll, apparently is under attack. And it's extraordinary how many young people are out on the streets about this. But yesterday, his government managed to survive votes of no confidence in the National Assembly, just scraping through by 9 votes on one of those votes. But let's talk about this with Gavin Mortimer. He writes about The Spectator and has spent many years living in France and commentating on their politics. Good morning to you, Gavin.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. I've always enjoyed your commentary on what is going on in France. It is extraordinary. Emmanuel Macron was very much sort of hailed as this wonderful centrist, Europhile, wonderful figure, and he managed to defeat Le Pen twice, and therefore he's this wonderful figure. And in fact, he's incredibly divisive in France and has extraordinarily low levels of support. It's just been because he's been up against Le Pen that he's managed to win his victories both times. And he's certainly very unpopular on the left and the right over his pension reforms, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the key is when he became president in 2017, he boasted of turning France into a start-up nation. And as you said, he's very popular among globalists, centrists, millennials. The sort of, I suppose, the anywheres of life, the somewheres loathe him, as you said, the left and the right. And what we're seeing now is really the culmination of 6 years of mutual hatred. And Macron hasn't helped himself. He's referred to the French as shirkers, slackers, resistant to change. And they've been spoiling for a fight, his opponents, for a long time. And that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, there is no love lost, is there not? But this is the thing. A lot of people looking at this from Britain were going, how on earth are you protesting against the pension age going up? Most other European nations have been putting their pension age up. We were late to do it. And it is unsustainable for Western countries to continue to keep a pension age so low when people are living so much longer and you have a falling fertility rate, smaller working population. It's just untenable. And for it not to be put up at this time. But there is a huge anger about this from French people, again, on the left and the right. This could have brought down his government. Of course, that wouldn't have brought down his presidency. That's separate from this. But could this still challenge him?
Oh, absolutely. The Marine Le Pen was on the radio today demanding a referendum. And that's what the left are demanding too. His prime minister, I mean, across the media, Julia, the left and the right newspapers have just, the word you hear most often is amateurism, the way he's handled this. As you said, he's been clear from the start that he wanted to reform the pensions and reform France economically. As we said earlier, it's his character. He's so divisive. And it's just he makes no pretense of his disdain for people who don't share his worldview.
Yeah, there's an incredible arrogance there, isn't there? Now, of course, that of course, very clear in the fact that he pushed this through by decree. He knew he wasn't going to get it through the Assembly, and so he pushed it through by decree, which in a democracy, people, funnily enough, even people who perhaps weren't that bothered by this issue, did decide to go out on the streets. We also see again and again the police handling of these protests. Quite extraordinary. The violence that we have seen, whatever the protests are about, whether Gilets jaunes or others, has been, I mean, something that, I mean, I've got a lot of criticisms of the police handling of various protests, particularly anti-lockdown protests in the last couple of years, very different from the handling of, for instance, Black Lives Matter protests or climate change protests. But what we've been seeing in terms of the French police, it is, I mean, it's something you'd more likely expect to see in Putin's Russia, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I attended a lot of the Gilets jaunes marches, reporting of The Spectator, and saw quite a bit of violence there. Now, there is an element of a radical left who love fighting the police. Yeah. But as you said, the police give as good as they get. And when you see the police, I mean, they dress like Robocops. This is the CRS, the riot squad. And so there has been, I was watching television pictures last night from Paris, and there were quite a few nasty scuffles there. The papers today are full of complaints of the heavy-handedness of police. And I think this is the worry, that this could easily just spiral out of control because of the anger on the streets. The union, a crucial difference, Julia, is that the difference between now and the yellow vests, the gilets jaunes, then it was fairly leaderless. There were unions weren't involved, political parties weren't involved. They are now. It's more organised, and I think this is the danger for Macron.
Yeah, indeed. And it is fascinating. As you say, he's one of those people. I mean, again, we see this again and again across the world. The likes of, Justin Trudeau in Canada and Emmanuel Macron, very, typical sort of these rather, handsome, young, sort of right-on men. And they're loved and absolutely lionised in the world media, but actually really having very little support at home. I mean, Trudeau doesn't have a majority government, never did have a majority government. But there's a lot of talk that this could actually lead to Marine Le Pen winning the next presidential election, because so much anger about this. Many people, 2 times now, held their noses. Rather fewer held their noses in the last election. He scraped through rather more close battle than he previously, saying, look, I wouldn't vote for someone like her. She's rebranded herself. We've seen the rise of Giorgia Meloni in Italy. We are seeing the rise of, more right-wing, some would say far-right, parties in many other countries, Sweden, Germany, Austria, Spain, elsewhere. There is a real dividing line in European politics, and we're often told, aren't we, oh, isn't it terrible we've left the EU because this extremism, Brexit. Actually, we've never seen parties who have those sort of politics or those extreme and sometimes outright bigoted and racist policies. We've never seen those parties do well in this country, and yet routinely do well in countries like France.
Absolutely, in France, in Holland, in Belgium, in Italy, as you said. I think Marine Le Pen, you're quite right in what you say, Julia. Meloni is a great boon for Marine Le Pen. She's, since he was elected Prime Minister 6 months ago, Italy hasn't fallen apart yet, and that's very much what Le Pen's hoping for. She got 89 of her MPs were voted into Parliament last June. There were talks of fascism, there's going to be jackboots down the Champs-Elysees. That hasn't happened. They've kept their noses clean. And I think you're quite right. People will just say to themselves, you know what? We've given everyone else a chance. Let's give Marine Le Pen a chance.
Yeah, indeed. Gavin, Mortimer, I hope we'll speak to you again. Thank you very much indeed.